Well, luckily it doesn't happen that often, but the fact is it does happen. And when this happens, you need an attorney and you need one quick. This guy, he calls my office. He's all panicked. He's a good guy. He's got a blue collar job, hardworking guy. He's married. He's got a couple of kids. He's got no criminal record whatsoever. And he tells me, hey, I got pulled over for a busted taillight on my pickup truck. So he gets pulled over for a busted taillight, and he's got a CPL, by the way. And his pistol was underneath the seat. And he figured, well, I don't have any sort of problems or anything. And so when the officer comes up, he does not say a word about the gun. Now, what's the first thing he does when the officer asks for his documentation? Not even thinking, he starts reaching over, relatively quickly for the glove compartment. And so suddenly the cop is shouting at him, do you have any weapons in the vehicle? And he's nervous, right? So he kind of hesitates, he stammers, and he's like, yeah, there's a gun under the seat. And before he can even explain that there's a gun under the seat, backup police are being called. The cop's got his hand on his gun. He's drawing his gun. This guy's getting yanked out of the car. He's getting cuffed on the pavement. And quite frankly, he's being treated like he's some sort of an active threat potentially to this cop. And the worst part of the whole situation is this guy, his gun was 100% legal. But he simply failed to immediately disclose it. And he made sudden movements. And the officers, reacting on their training and probably past experiences with quick and violent encounters, he treated it like it was a potential ambush. And we understand why the police can sometimes feel like this way. Here in Southwest Michigan in the last 24 months, we have had multiple cases of traffic stops turning into ambushes on police. So they are a little bit on edge. I think that's extremely safe to say. So in the end, he ends up charged with failure to comply under Michigan's MCL 28425F. And he nearly lost his CPL. So he had to hire a lawyer. He comes into our office, and quite frankly, he is lucky that he wasn't shot that night. He's very lucky that it wasn't shot that night. And this happens more often than people think. Legal gun owners get in serious trouble because they don't know, sort of the exact words they're supposed to say or when to say them. And this afternoon, we're going to be walking through what it is you should do. What are the best practices for how to handle yourself when you are in an encounter with the police, you have a CPL, and you are armed. Because what you do at that highly critical, sometimes stressful point can be the difference between going home safely, both of you, and not. Hi folks, I'm criminal defense attorney Keith Stickley here at the Stickley Law Firm. We're a full-service law firm here in downtown Hillsdale, Michigan, but we serve a lot of Southwest Michigan, from Jackson to Calhoun and Branch County as well. When you get stopped by the police with a gun in your car, even if the gun is completely legal and you have a CPL, the first few seconds of that traffic stop and how you handle yourself can be the most dangerous and stressful few seconds of your life. And it's really important that we go over what the best practices are so that both you and the police officer get through the traffic stop in a completely safe manner. At the end of the day, both parties just want to be able to go home and go home safely. And failure to comply with some of Michigan's little-known rules can actually end up in both civil infractions and potentially even criminal charges if you don't know what your real responsibilities are when having an encounter with the police when you are armed. And yes, that includes even if you're legally armed. Now, I've represented a lot of good people who broke gun laws they didn't even know existed. So here's what I want you to know before your next drive or your next traffic stop. The first section we're going to talk about applies to if you have a CPL in the state of Michigan. Now, what is a CPL? A CPL is a concealed pistol license. A concealed pistol license. Now, unlike some states that have what's called a CCW, or concealed carry weapon license, Michigan actually doesn't have that. Michigan does not give you a license to just carte blanche carry whatever weapon you want concealed. The two things that Michigan concealed pistol licenses apply to are obviously handguns and pistols, both revolvers and semi-automatic, and also tasers or electromuscular stimulation devices. And of course, if you don't already know, you cannot carry a concealed pistol or gun on your person if you do not have this Michigan CPL license. Now, we've covered what it takes to get a CPL in other videos here on my channel. So if you haven't seen that yet, or if you don't have a CPL and you're looking for information, just click around, I'm sure you'll find it. But this information is vitally important for those of you who already have a CPL, because it's surprising how many valid CPL holders get in trouble by not knowing the actual rules. Now, Michigan does have a law, MCL 28.425F, and that applies to duties when you're carrying your firearm in a vehicle. When you are pulled over or have police contact, you have to immediately disclose that you have a valid CPL and that you have a pistol in the vehicle. You have to show your driver's license and your CPL upon request. Now, there's been some question about this of whether or not you actually have to present your CPL and such, and I can tell you, regardless of what the law, it's absolutely foolish not to give a police officer a copy of your CPL when you're getting pulled over. Now, let's talk about the actual process. Let's pretend like we're driving our car. Brrr. Okay, here we go. Oh, uh-oh. I got police lights over my shoulder. I'm getting pulled over. What's the first thing you do? Well, the first thing you do is you actually stop, and you stop safely, right? So you put on your turn signal, you slowly go to the shoulder or the first available safe place to stop, and you stop your vehicle, just like any other traffic stop, right? But there are a couple things that are best practices that I think every CPL holder should do. Almost all of the law enforcement professionals that I've ever talked to or worked with agree on these points. After you safely stop the vehicle, the first thing I highly suggest that you do is turn on your dome light. Pretty much every single vehicle has a dome light, especially if it's dark. If it's completely bright and sunny out, maybe this doesn't apply to you. But one thing that police officers definitely want to see so that they remain calm is they want to be able to see inside the vehicle and be aware of their surroundings. Many of these traffic stops happen at night when the interior of your vehicle might be dark. And if the interior is dark, they might not be able to see or perceive any threats around, so they might be on edge. When police officers are on edge, they're often trained to stand there or investigate with one hand on their firearm. The last thing you want to happen as a police officer to be nervous when they're having an encounter with you with their hand on their gun. Because you know what? Just like CPL holders, police officers are human too. And you do not want somebody with hands on a gun in a situation that does not warrant hands on a gun. Because hands on a gun can equal wiggly fingers. Stress can equal wiggly fingers. We do not want a negligent, and yes, I said negligent, not accidental, discharge because somebody, it doesn't matter who, had a hand on a gun in a high-stress situation and they accidentally pulled the trigger. So to recap, number one, turn on that dome light if it's at all dark. The next thing that you want to do, if the police officer is still in the vehicle, my suggestion is to quickly, only if you can get it very quickly, get your documentation or your wallet out and put it on the dashboard, all right? If your wallet or your registration and insurance information is buried, if it's in the glove compartment, if it's in the console, if you're sitting on it in your back pocket wallet, leave it alone. Leave it alone. This part's very important. But if it is instantly accessible, go ahead and take it out and put it on the dashboard, somewhere in the middle of the car where the police officer, when they walk up and they see the car, they can immediately see where that information might be. The third thing is put your hands on the steering wheel. Put them on the steering wheel. Now, if I didn't mention it already, you probably want to roll down the window also so that they can actually speak to you. So maybe maybe put your hands on the steering wheel is 3B, roll down the window is 3A. And I highly encourage it to do this before the police officer even walks up. Why is that? Well, police officers are trained to observe your hands. They want to know where your hands are because, quite frankly, these, after this, is the most dangerous weapon. It's the biggest threat to them. And we are trying to de-escalate. We are trying to bring down the stress level so that nobody is nervous and nobody gets hurt. So step 3A, roll down the window. Step 3B, put your hands on the steering wheel so the police can see them at all times. Step number 4, this is really where the rubber meets the road. By now, you're pulled over safely. You have hopefully your documentation either on the dashboard or it's not hidden somewhere, but it's placed somewhere and you're going to let the officer know. Your window is down and your hands where the police officer can see. This is the greatest situation to put yourself in to show before you even have an interaction with the police officer that you're not going to be any threat whatsoever. Step number 4 is you tell the officer, "Officer, I have a valid CPL and there is a firearm in the vehicle. Here's where the firearm is." And then you tell them. If the firearm is in the glove compartment, you tell them, the firearm is in my glove compartment. And I actually like to tell them what the condition of the firearm is. Is it locked? Does it have a full magazine, but one is not in the chamber? Does it have a full magazine and one is in the chamber? You want to give them information so that they go, oh, okay, this guy isn't a threat. He's just trying to look out for me. And quite frankly, if you look out for these guys, 9.9 times out of 10, they're going to look out for you. So you let them know, I have a firearm in the vehicle. And then you ask, how would you like me to proceed? And then listen to them. Because at that point, they're going to tell you how they want this traffic stop to go. It's important to keep in mind. It's critically important to keep in mind. Even if something is happening that you don't agree with, if somebody's got a bad attitude, if you don't think you deserve to be pulled over, the side of the road is not where you have a confrontation with the police. My job as a criminal defense attorney, if things go sideways, is to deal with any beefs, to deal with any police misconduct, any bad attitudes, anything like that. My job is to deal with that at the courtroom. We do not fight these battles on the side of the road. The police have guns, they have a radio, and in a couple seconds, they can have a lot more guns, okay? And the last thing you need to do is have your bad day or some officer's bad day make it an absolute tragedy. That's what we're trying to avoid. Almost every single time you do those 4 steps and ask the officer how they will proceed, the officer will tell you, okay, where is the information, your driver's license or registration? If you have it up on the dashboard, you tell them, it's right here on the dashboard. Would you like me to get it? Or if it's like on your seat or whatever, then you tell them, hey, look, it's in my right back pocket. And just so you know, the gun is also, and you tell them where the gun is. The gun's in the glove compartment. It's in your right back pocket. It's underneath the seat, whatever it is. So you want the cop to know where your information is, and you want the cop to know where your gun is, okay? I've been pulled over myself a few times. I've been in this situation, and I've been with other people in a vehicle where this happened. And I'm going to tell you, it's not magic, all right? But I'm going to tell you, if you do steps 1 through 4, the likelihood of you getting out of a ticket, let's say you're speeding, might have happened. Let's say that you're speeding. The likelihood of you just getting a warning, if you act professional, calm, and courteous at that, just goes up about 10x. I have found, and my clients have found, and I am a CPL instructor. I haven't taught a class for quite some time, but I did do classes. I'm certified in Michigan. I tell people this, and the feedback that I get when they have traffic stops is almost universally, if I handle myself like that in a traffic stop, I usually don't even get a citation for whatever it is they pulled me over for. They're usually like, oh, okay, that's a good guy. He made a mistake. Slow down a little bit, Mr. Stickley. Don't do this anymore. They give me my information back, and I go on my way. That's usually how it happens, believe it or not. Now, if you actually fail to disclose that you have a firearm on you in one of these stops and you have a CPL, your first offense is going to be a civil infraction, and that's a $100 fine. The second offense is a 6-month suspension, and any additional infractions can end up in things like revocation. And if you're lying or concealing something, then it could potentially be a criminal offense. Bottom line, don't reach for a gun or do something that looks like you're reaching for a gun without the permission of the officer first. You want him to know exactly what you're doing the entire time. So let's talk about the second section of this video, though. What happens if you're carrying a gun in your car and you do not have a Michigan CPL? Quite frankly, you're in a completely different universe. We get clients every single month who are charged with carrying a gun in their car. They don't have a CPL and they don't think they're doing anything wrong. And the next thing you know, they're literally looking at a felony charge. And quite frankly, these are not easy cases to fight. But under Michigan compiled law 750.227D, you cannot carry a pistol or handgun in your vehicle unless one of 3 conditions are present. Number 1, it's unloaded. Number 2, it has to be in a closed case designed for firearm storage. Or 3, it is in the trunk or not readily accessible if no trunk exists. Some of the most common reasons that people get in trouble and have to end up calling us when they're carrying without a CPL and the gun happens to be in their car, is they put a gun under their seat. I see this time and time and time and time again, and they're like, Mr. Stickley, it can't really be that accessible if it's under my seat and I'm actually driving the car. Well, there's a lot of case law on this point that says that under the seat is still considered something accessible, even though if it might be a little bit improbable. I mean, in theory, you might not be driving safely, but you probably could somehow reach under or finagle your way to get a gun from under the seat. Another thing that tends to get people arrested is they think that having a loaded pistol or a gun in their car when they don't have a CPL is somehow part of like the castle doctrine, or they say, look, hey, I'm like living out of my car or something. And quite frankly, the law and case law, unfortunately, is not on your side. Now, I'm not here to debate whether or not these are common sense laws. I'm just here to tell you what the laws are and how we defend clients day in and day out from some of these overzealous prosecutors and police officers who see a law and like to charge it, sometimes based on situations that feel kind of like a technicality. And by far, it's safe to say the most common issue I have is folks who have a gun in a glove box of a vehicle. And this is where the rubber really meets the road. I think I've used that already, but a lot of people think, well, what is a glove box for? It is not directly accessible by a driver. Sometimes, in fact, almost always, a glove box is locked. And I have had to litigate the issue of whether or not a glove box is a secure storage unit that should comply with safe storage and handling while in a vehicle. And it comes down to a lot of those different circumstances that might be in play if you're charged with carrying a gun in your locked glove box. You know, one of the arguments that I've made a lot, and I don't think it's been fully fleshed out by the legislature before, is, well, what is a glove box designed to do? It's a strange box in your car. It's not in front of the driver. It's usually difficult to get to, and it has an independent lock that even in most keyless cars actually needs a physical key, and that would be pretty difficult to do if you're driving the car. And I've had prosecutors come at me and say, well, it's not called a gun box, it's called a glove box. And to which I respond and put it in front of a jury, oh, really? When's the last time you put gloves in a glove box? Let's walk up and down a road and just take a little survey about how many people have gloves in their glove box of their car, right? I don't think a glove box, I know we use that term, but it's a bit antiquated. I don't think a glove box is designed for gloves. In fact, I don't think in my Jeep I used to drive, a pair of gloves would even fit in the glove box. So that's an issue that if you get into, you better retain an attorney and get one quick, somebody who's dealt with these issues a lot, because you're going to need it. It's going to be a fight. And it's not a fight that you can't necessarily win, but it is definitely a fight that you're going to have if you find yourself in that situation. So quite frankly, in order to carry a pistol in your vehicle, like you said, you have to have it unloaded in a closed case or in a trunk. If no trunk exists, it's got to be in a separate area that's not accessible. A lot of pickup trucks don't have anything like that, so you got to put it behind like a folding seat. The other little caveat to this whole thing is you have to be going to a place where you can lawfully have or use the gun, a gun range, a gunsmith. So in order to legally transport a long gun in your vehicle, there's sort of four main things that you need to keep in mind. Number one, the most important one probably is in Michigan, it has to be unloaded, okay? Number two, it has to be in a case or it has to be broken down. Now, what do I mean by broken down? Well, if you're a sportsman, this might make sense to you, but a lot of people might not realize many long guns come apart. The barrel, the action assembly can come apart. Some shotguns split, especially some of the cool old ones, double barrel shotguns, and they break apart. So it has to be basically disassembled, so it can't just be instantly used. It has to be in the trunk of the vehicle or not accessible. If there is a trunk in that vehicle, you better put it in the trunk. If you're in a truck, you better not have it in one of those old school gun racks that everybody used to roll around, having them in their rear windows. You know, it's kind of crazy to me. I don't see in Michigan why that's not considered open carry, but hey, I'm an old-fashioned kind of guy, and I do think it's a little bit ridiculous. But quite frankly, we don't go off of what's ridiculous or not once we get drug into the court, although we kind of, sometimes a jury gets to make that determination. But I have to help my clients get through the laws that are laid down and what the prosecutor is charging them with. They also cannot, this is really important, cannot have any rounds in a chamber or a magazine, Guys with pump shotguns that have internal magazines, make sure that that tube magazine is empty when you're transporting the thing. Super important. It is illegal in Michigan to have a long gun in plain sight, regardless if it's loaded or not. Do I think it's crazy? Yes, but that's the law. Also, it cannot be accessible. The gun itself cannot be accessible. Now, there is a big exception here. This is probably a no-brainer to all the sportsmen in Michigan. If you're on your own property, or if you're on property that you have permission to be on, and you're there for lawful recreation activities using those long guns, you probably will be able to, okay? But while driving, when you're on a public road, or if you're on a piece of road or driveway, even quite frankly, parking lot that is meant for public use, for public transport that attaches to a road, you cannot do it. So don't just roll around with a gun with a round in the tube magazine there sitting in the shotgun seat next to you, and think that you're not going to have problems, because they can and will charge you, especially the DNR. Now, let me tell you, if you want to learn a little bit about the DNR, how they operate, quite frankly, what I think of them, for the most part, hunt around for the DNR videos here on my channel here at the Stickley Law Firm, because there's a lot that you need to know. The DNR are quite an interesting group here in the state of Michigan, and quite frankly, we have to defend DNR cases quite often. So bottom line, where does this leave us? Well, if you're not sure whether or not your setup is legal for however you want to call a firearm, call a lawyer you trust, or call my office before the cops start needing to talk to you. And if you've been pulled over and now you're facing some sort of a gun charge, don't say a word, okay? Do not say a word. I help CPL holders and gun owners across Michigan protect their rights. So let's talk before you get charged with a crime, or even if you get charged with a crime, let's talk and let's see how we can work through this situation and get a positive resolution so that you don't end up with a criminal record, if at all possible. Folks, if you find the content that I'm providing helpful, do me a big favor. Like the video, subscribe to my channel, and share it around with your friends. I'm really dedicated here at the Stickley Law Firm to releasing regular content aimed at law-abiding individuals who want to make sure that they stay on the right side of the law and don't have trouble in the future. And when they do have legal problems, I encourage them to give me a call here at my Hillsdale office. We go all over Michigan and defend people's rights who are accused of crimes. If you or somebody that you know find yourself on the wrong side of the law, we can be found here. Our contact information is all over our socials. Give us a call. We'll bring it into the office. We'll evaluate your case. We'll look at all the circumstances, and we'll help you get the best possible outcome for your situation. Stay safe, folks, and we'll see you real soon.